Hi viewers, another episode of Guest with Nazir. Today we are honored. Today's honorable guest is a member House of Lords and he started his journey at the age of 14 years. He came to the United Kingdom to join his dad to join the cotton industry. One and only Lord Qurban Hussain. Welcome in our show.
Thank you for inviting us.
Lord Qurban, it's a great honor for my team to interview you. Please tell our viewers about your childhood and your early days.
Well, I was born and brought up in a village called Rajdhani in Azad Kashmir district. What used to be Mirpur and now is Kotli for many years. Um, and I came to this country at the age of nearly 15. Um and My father was already here. The family joined him then. And ever since we are here.
So please tell our viewers the time you joined your dad. It was very challenging time for the United Kingdom when the industry was in the need of hardworking individuals and people like you.
Well, certainly. My dad came among the very first lot of people that came to this country after the Second World War. I think it was in mid 50s when the British government needed workforce, and those were very challenging days. And When we came, Alhamdulillah, we didn't see that hardship that our father and his age group people suffered from, because by the time we had arrived, my father already bought a house, and we came straight into our own house. As whereas those who came a few years earlier than us, they suffered much bitter kind of circumstances, having to share house with different families, different people, overcrowding, and so forth. So or I was lucky enough that we didn't have to go through that as we came. And then, of course, it was time. I was still at the high school age, so I went to school for some time, and then in those days, the family tradition was that uh, boys, when they became age of 15, in those days, they could leave school and find work. And I have to say that there was a lot of work available at the time when we arrived. Cotton mills in Lancashire, Yorkshire, that's where we were, in Rochdale. And there were lots of cotton mills available, and one could go and get registered within three or four different employers if they wanted to, and then choose which job they want to go to, uh, albeit they were all labor jobs. But of course, I, from first day in the textile mill, I decided that I was not going to, work all my life as my father in factories. It was very hard work. It was dusty. It was, uh, at times, depending on which section of the textile mill you worked in, it was smelly. And the Although the conditions were not appalling, I have to say, there was health and safety rules and regulations applied, but nevertheless, it wasn't something that I wanted to do all my life. From day one, I had made my mind up, and thanks to the adult education system in this country, I worked during the day and went to college in the evening for many years for me to be able to find a white collar job, which I managed after a few years of working in the textile. I found a job in a bank. And from then on, of course, I kept studying part time. I have to say until good 30 years after, because having grown up, having family and full time job and all that, it made all that difficult to continue even part time studies. But nevertheless, it was one of my interests to carry on studying one thing or the other, and to improve myself. Basically, I wasn't there to show anybody my degrees or my certificates, but I was trying to maximize my potential, and therefore, uh, once I left the factories, then, different jobs. I've worked in bank, as I said, many years, and then in insurance and uh, voluntary sector and so on and so forth. So things moved on. Obviously now we're talking about nearly 50 years now, and a lot of water had gone under the bridges since, and a lot of jobs have been changed and whatever. And I had to leave Rochdale in 1993 because of the job situation, because uh, in early 70s, there were plenty of jobs available, but then by the end of 70s, early 80s, when the textile declined, and there were a lot of unemployment in the area. So I suffered from that as well. And by 1993, I was, out of work, and I found a job in in an advice center in Luton as an advisor. So I moved down Luton. I worked in that advice center for good 10 years. And then things moved on. I started.
Yeah, Qurban, I would like to ask a very specific question because
Yeah.
being youth yourself, when you joined this country, you faced so many challenges and you realized those challenges and started youth work. Please tell our viewers about your journey in the youth work and especially the project you did for the youngsters in Rochdale.
Yes, it is one of the things that I'm very proud to, talk about, because when late 80s, late 70s, I should say, that when the textile industry started declining, and every day mills were closing, and a lot of unemployment was spreading, and a few of us got together and started talking about this, and they say, what is the future of our young people here now? They have to be trained in order in different fields, because there are no more textile jobs left, or they are declining. So we, not only me, but it was a group of us, and I have to say I was lucky enough to have a very enthusiastic and capable and trustworthy group of friends who got together, all thinking on the same wavelength and pulling the same direction. We set up a project to train people in different fields, and originally it was only an advice center, but then it turned out into, changed into a training center. And I remember at one time we used to have 12 or 13 different training workshops from motor mechanic to electronics, joinery, and office skills, childcare, computer skills, and so on and so forth. And then we became one of the, in the Northwest, our project was a youth project, which we became one of the largest youth clubs in the Northwest of England. And, there came a time, many ministers, British government ministers came to visit us. In fact, it was opened by, the official opening was done by a British minister at the time, back in 1984. And then we had a royal visit. Prince Charles, he came to visit the project. And, the project has been ever since, in existence. Still it exists, but I think things have changed now, and maybe there are different priorities, and people are having to deal with those. But nevertheless, those years, first 10 or 12 years of my life that I gave to the project, we set it up and got it going. And one thing from day one, all of us had said, we are not going to make it our personal projects for our life. We have to give chance to the younger generation, so we will move on. And I'm glad to say that, those people who originally were with me at the time, they all moved on, and younger people came up, and they are running it. And I don't exactly know who runs it now, but nevertheless, I think different people have gotten there. And what I'm saying to you is that it was that kind of idea to support and enable and train our young people, which helped to set up the project. But at the same time, I was, more outgoing than the others, and because at the time I was, part of the time I was self-employed as well, and that gave me a little bit of a freedom and the others who were working full-time in the offices and so forth, they had, not so much time during the day. So I was representing the project on different fields, on Community Relations Council and all the other, networks in the town. And I was in a local Islamic center and so on and so forth. So the idea was to pay back to the community, help those who are less fortunate than I was or my friends were. And we all worked very hard. I'm really, really grateful to the Almighty that He has given me this idea, and as well as group a good group of people to work with. And I'm always so proud of those my colleagues. Anyway, we moved on. I mean, as I said, we worked for a few years, set it up, and when it was all running, we slowly, gradually, we left it to the younger people and moved on. So that is the Rochdale Kashmir Youth Project that I'm proud to say that, and by the way, I'm a life member of that as well. They offered me a life membership some 10, 15 years ago. So I say to young people that we are lucky, we are here, and we are part and parcel of this society. We not only need to benefit from the society, but also we need to think about those who are less fortunate, and we need to be ready to support those across cultures, not necessarily people from your own community, but right across the country. This is a multicultural, multi-religious society that we are part of, and it took centuries. I'm sure it took centuries to develop this culture of tolerance, of cooperation, of respect, and this is what we keep, and this is what keeps me going as well. I mean, the reason to join politics was, of course, this very idea that, for which we set up the Kashmir Youth Project, and that was to help the community. And I'm still doing the same. I'm still helping people whichever way I can.
Lord Qurban, you then all of a sudden, from the youth work and obviously your employment, you decided to join politics. So who was your ideal when you decided that I should join the politics?
Well, when I left Rochdale, Luton was a new place for me. And here, I didn't have that link of friends or network of friends. And what I did, as well as joining part-time university, I joined the trade union. I thought, okay, that's another way of helping people. And from the trade union, there were a lot of people around me who were labor members, and they encouraged me to become active in the trade union, which I did. And I became a secretary for the local trade union council. And then, of course, I became a member of the Labour Party as well. And then I came to this town in '93, and I was encouraged, I have to say. I didn't have to really do too much. I was basically encouraged to stand in local elections in 1996 for a seat which had never been won by the Labour Party before. It was just an idea, okay, I'll get a taste of politics. But I won the seat back in 1996, and that's how the politics started. The ward that I won is called Birmingham Ward in Luton. Even today, it is largely an indigenous community ward, in those days too. Not many people, Pakistanis or Asians as such, were living there. But this is the beauty of this country and this society, that people are usually not judged on their background, on the color of the skin, but what they stand for. And I'm a live example of that. That people supported me, although there weren't many people from my community as such in that ward. But still, I was voted, and I won from a councillor who was from the indigenous community, who lived in the ward. But people voted for what I stood for. But then, of course, after being with the party for some time, there came a point again, matter of principle, when the Iraq war started, and I was among those millions of people up and down the country who were against that war. And the day the war started, I decided to leave the party. This is how.
I have a question here, because in politics, you have a difference, and always, even in your present party, you must have some difference of political views or on some policy matters. So this was a foreign policy matter. Rather than leaving the party, why you should not have took a stand that I will stay in the party and I will try to convince my fellow members within the party and also at the ministerial level that let's change the policy.
Well, that was an option. That was an option. Many of my friends advised me against it. They said, well, we'll stay in the party and we'll fight. And they did it. But what came, it is not what you really want to do. These circumstances push you in certain directions. What had happened, the member of parliament, Labour member of parliament at the time, who later on caught up in financial scandals and had to leave the parliament, Margaret Moran, I fell out with her bitterly over the war issue. And in a party meeting, when I raised the issue, the war had not begun yet. And I said, well, it looks as though, war is imminent, it is, it looks that way, but we are against the war. I don't think there's a case for the war. And there were about 100 or so party members. I think it was one of the ward selections that we were together. And she stood up and, attacked me in a way that said, he's warmongering, he's telling lies, the war is not going to happen. Stop, misleading people. That's not the case. The war is not going to happen. Even if it did, I'm going to be, against the war. Well, so bitter with her, and I couldn't sit in the same room with her anymore. I said, well, if that's the case, I'm going to leave the party. And because everybody else, there were not many challenging her. Okay, they were against the war, but they were not challenging her. And I thought, no, she's wrong, and I think I have to challenge her. So I left the party, but not for any political party as such, I have to say. I left
at what stage you joined then Liberal Democrats, and what was the main reason you joined the Liberal Democrats?
Well, what happened, on the 18th of March 2003, the war began. And on the 19th, I got up in the morning, wrote my resignation, went personally delivered at the Labour Party local headquarters, and one at the local press. There's a local newspaper which is delivered to every household free every Thursday or so, and I delivered a copy there as well. And as I came home, it is quite a coincidence, I have to say, that things fell into place as if they were planned. Actually, they weren't planned. I came back, and on my doorstep, I met a Liberal Democratic councillor. He was, walking down the road for some other business. I don't know what. And he said, oh, hello, because we knew each other for a very long time. I had, recognized each other. He said, and the first thing he said, oh, how is your party? And I said, what party? He said, you're a Labour member, aren't you? I said, not anymore. He said, why? Well, I showed him my resignation. And he says, are you really leaving the party on this basis? I said, well, there is my resignation, you can tell. And he said, Liberal Democrats are against the war completely. I said, no, I haven't studied your policy. He said, well, can we talk? So in the same afternoon, he brought one or two other colleagues, and we sat down and we talked about the war. And they gave me their policy document and everything, and statements from the party leader then. I said, well, fine, this is the issue right now for me. There wasn't much of a problem with, I have to say, still now, I have to say, I didn't have much of a problem with my local Labour colleagues other than the Member of Parliament. But anyway, that was that. I joined them. And remember, it was 19th of March, and the local elections in Luton happen every 4 years, all out. In some councils, as you know, there's 1/3 every year. Here we have all out elections every 4 years. And the local elections were happening on 1st of May. So I had about 5 weeks. So many friends of mine, I have to say, advised me, Qurban, wait until the elections, win the seat, and then jump. Otherwise, you're going to lose your seat. I said, no, I have a principle. If I don't agree with a party, I will not fight for them. I will fight for some party that I agree with. So within those 5 weeks, as I said, sometimes things fall into place naturally without you making too much effort about it. And another good thing that went in my favor was the local paper. As soon as they got my resignation, they knew by that time there was boundary changes and the Birmingham ward had been divided, and they knew I was selected in a new ward, which was part of the Birmingham ward, and that was a very, very secure Labour seat then and still now. So people were advising me, Qurban, don't leave that secure seat. It's a safer seat in the town, and you're leaving that, and you're going to go with the Liberal Democrats. They have no chance of winning. And of course, they were right. There was little chance of them winning because out of 48 seats then, Labour held 36, and Liberal Democrats only had 9 seats, and a few others were left to the Tories. But anyway, to cut the long story short, in those 5 weeks, what had happened, the local paper, they came to me, they asked my view, and maybe there wasn't any much bigger news, local news available for them, or they felt it so important that they printed my interview on the front page without any other news on the front page. And that was delivered to every household. And that did my campaign. And within 5 weeks, I was able to, and the campaign was so great. And people were actually, as not only me, you, if you were here, you will know, millions of people marched up and down the country against the war. And Luton community, right across the board, were against the war. I remember when I, knocked at people's door, and some English voters I spoke to, very elderly, and they said, particularly one woman I can still remember. She said, as I tried to introduce myself, she says, "I know you." I said, "Who do you? Where do you know me from?" She said, "Well, the newspaper has introduced you already." I said, "Okay." She said, "You know what? We meet, me and my friends, we meet in the pub in the evening, and every night we talk about you, and we are so proud of you. At least we have one person in the town who can speak up his mind and speak against this war." And this is how popular I became. And in that election, the result was we brought Labour down from 36 to 21. Liberal Democrats went up from 9 to 21. We were equal, and with the help of Conservatives, we took the control. I became a portfolio holder, and in 2 years' time, I was a parliamentary candidate for Liberal Democrats.
So you also contested election for the parliament because of the time restraints. So you contested for the
Liberal Democrats.
Liberal Democrats. So what was the result for that election?
Well, in 2005, first time when let's go back a little bit. Before I fought in 2001, the Liberal Democrat vote was 3.5 or nearly 4,000. And the winning MPs votes were over 21,000. So there was a huge gap, over 17,000 votes gap. When I stood, I doubled my party vote. I took over 8,000 votes instead of 3.5. And the Labour candidate or MP came down to 16 or 15 or something like that. I think it was 16. So that was a huge drop for her. Conservatives didn't lose much, didn't gain much either. They stayed, about the same number of votes. That gave me a lot of encouragement, and to the party as well. And the party was so pleased that I, not only managed to give them a control in the town hall, but also double the party vote in the general elections. And then, I managed to secure my second term with the Liberal Democrats as a councillor as well in 2007. 2009, I was put on the European election as well. I was a candidate in the east of England. But, there's a proportional representation. And if you're in the bottom of the pile, you're not going to win it. But nevertheless, I was among one of the candidates. And then 2010 again, party was ever so pleased. They didn't even ask for any other nominations. They put me as a candidate. And this time, I reduced the Labour vote even further. I went up to nearly 10,000 and brought Labour to 4,000. So the difference between the elections for Liberal Democrats, before me, there was a 17,000 gap between the winning candidate and the Liberal Democrat candidate. And with my two attempts, the difference became 4,000 instead of 17,000.
So when you received this news that you will be joining House of Lords, so who gave you this news? And please tell our viewers about your feelings.
Yes, it was interesting. I have to say, only in a joking manner, when I lost the elections in May 2010, a group of my supporters gathered at my house second day or third day or whatever. And, they were all young lads, and they were all, with respect, they called me uncle. And one of them stands up and says, "Uncle, what's going to happen now? We've had two attempts, and we really, really were looking forward to see you winning. And in fact, it's not only him or those young people. Even the party leadership was very much, hopeful that I will win." And one of the examples or reasons I can tell you why they thought I was going to win, that usually party leaders go and support the party leader, the leader, not, in our culture, we call everybody a leader. But, our leader, Nick Clegg, at the time, he visited all the possible, winnable seats once at least. He came to Luton 3 times to support me. So this is how serious they were as well, and they were looking forward. Perhaps I will win the seat. But anyway, the young man asked, "Uncle, what's going to happen?" I said, "Young man, my car has reached at a roundabout, and there are only 3 exits. One of them goes to House of Commons, the other one goes to European Parliament, the third one goes to the House of Lords. And I'm not going to take my car out of this roundabout until I get one of these exits." And there was a bit of a joke, and just to raise their morals and whatever But I never thought that I was going to become a lord.
And that moment was a moment of acceptance from Allah Almighty.
Well, there you are. In July, I can't remember now, it was 10th of July or whatever it was, I was sitting as we are now on a Sunday afternoon, and I had a phone call from the Deputy Prime Minister's office, Nick Clegg's office, and his secretary, whom I recognized the voice because we've been in touch with the Deputy Prime Minister previously as well. And she said, "The Deputy Prime Minister would like to talk to you, and they want to know what is the best time for you to talk." I said, "Well, in a couple of hours or whatever." And she said, "Well, be ready at certain time. He will ring you." So I waited, but that time passed, and I thought it was a call. I thought it was a false alarm. Somebody just taking mick out of me or something. And really, I thought, well, the Deputy Prime Minister is a busy man. He's not gonna on a Sunday afternoon think, "Oh, well, let's talk to Qurban." I'm sure he's got plenty of more other things to do. So I nearly thought, "Oh, well, somebody was just pulling a fast one on me." But what happened a few minutes later, or an hour later, I have to say, the bell rang, the telephone bell rang, and it was the same lady again. She said, "Sorry, Prime Minister was busy. Deputy Prime Minister was busy, but we would like to talk to you now." And that was when he broke the news. He said, "Qurban, I would like to put your name forward for the peership, and I just wanted your consent. Would you be happy to represent the party at the House of Lords?" I said, I'll be really glad to do so." He said, "Well, I'm going to put your name forward, but there's a process. There's a vigorous process to go through. Not everybody who gets nominated becomes a lord. Remember that. So you're not supposed to tell your wife or anybody until there's an announcement from number 10 Downing Street. Don't listen to anybody. Don't assume anything. Just because I have put your name forward, that does not mean that you have become a lord. Wait until an announcement from the Prime Minister, nobody else. I said, okay. Well, I have to say, those few months were very difficult because I was not able to tell anybody. And but the other thing is that before the elections, I have wound my business up. And I thought after the elections, if I did not win, I'll start a business up. Now here, I was caught up. My God, I can't start a business just in case I'm been, the new business, I can't go and sit in House of Lords because the business needs time and so on and so forth. So I wasn't working, and I was having a tough time of keeping this news with me, or shall I tell or shall I not? But anyway, 18th or 17th or 18th November, it was announced from number 10 Downing Street. Among those who were, given the peerage, I was one of them. And I was, grateful, first of all, to the Almighty who has given me this respect. And of course, I'm grateful to the Liberal Democrat Party as well, and the leadership who decided to put my name forward, and to the government as well, who has given me this opportunity. And here I am. And ever since I've been in the House of Lords, I've tried to serve, as I always have done, whether I was working in the voluntary capacity, in the voluntary sector, in the trade union, in one political party or the other political party, or as a councillor, or as a Lord. I work for all the communities, in the country. As Lords don't have a constituency as such, but I think the whole of UK is my constituency. And
recently, the government of Pakistan, the president of Pakistan, has conferred you a prestigious civil award, Star-e-Qaid-e-Azam. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please tell our viewers, so what was the reason behind this, and the government of Pakistan has recognized your services, and what is the future? Because if we will talk to any person from Kashmir, they only talk about the difficulties and sufferings of people in Kashmir. So what you have done so far, and what is the future of those people?
Well, let me say one thing. People ask me, well, what have I done to gain this? And I ask them, well, the same thing was asked to me when I became a Lord. What did you do in order to achieve this? And I said, well, go and ask the party, and go and ask the Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister what they thought the qualities were that I qualified for that position. Here again, I think, the government of Pakistan is would know why they have selected me, and I'm grateful that they have. But all I can tell you is, not only since I became a Lord, I have been active on the Kashmir campaign for good 30, 35 years. And people in the UK, those who have any connection with the Kashmir campaign, regardless of which political group or ideology they believe in, they are aware of my name. I have done to best of my ability. I can't say I achieved a lot, because we haven't achieved a great deal as such that we can say the achievement will be when Kashmiris get their right of self-determination. But we're not there yet at all. But all I can say is I've done my best to support the Kashmiris, and of course to highlight their plight, their oppression that they are going through at all levels. And since I've been a member of the House of Lords, of course, I don't lose any opportunity where I should raise the issue of Kashmir and the plight of the Kashmiri people, and asking the British government and the world powers to intervene, because it's not only me who's asking about it. It is the 14 million Kashmiris asking for it, and also all the renowned human rights organizations, international human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, United Nations Commission for Human Rights, and many others. They're all crying out loud that there is a huge human rights violation taking place in Indian occupied Kashmir, and the world has to come forward and tell India to stop it and give the people their rights, their democratic rights. And that is what I'm asking for as well. If we can give the the Kashmiris, I always, stand in the parliament and say in the House of Lords, Kashmiris, what they are asking for, exactly the same thing that Scottish people were asking from us, a right to vote. If we were prepared to give the Scottish people a right to vote, if we were prepared to give our own people to decide about the Brexit.
But Lord Qurban, recently there are media and international media is reporting that the Indian government is trying to change the percentage of population because a lot of outsiders are coming and they are getting domiciled. So don't you think that this can be a change the situation and especially the genuine people who are domiciled are the people who are living in that region and especially in the valley?
You're absolutely right. And this is something that I have raised it with the government and many people, and the Kashmiris have not accepted it, by the way. Whichever Kashmiri you speak to, even listening to those Kashmiris who many of us have been thinking that they were pro-India when it comes to, when there is a plebiscite and they most probably would like to join India, or those who have in the past, for example, people from the Jammu Kashmir National Conference, the Abdullah family, or the Mufti family, who have been known to be pro-India historically. Speak to any one of them, leaders or party workers or anybody on the ground, even people from Jammu, because I have contacts on both sides of line of control, being a Kashmiri origin. We know even the pundits of Jammu are not happy with the obligation of Article 370 and 35A that you're talking about, by which India has taken those rights away from people, and they're offering the domicile to anybody and everybody who applies for it. And 35A was something that stopped them doing it, and they have abrogated that one. Now, this is something that we, myself, and all those activists who work on the Kashmir campaign tried to raise their concerns about. And I think you would know, or many of your viewers would know too, that not only the people of Kashmir are saying that, the United Nations Security Council has met 3 times in the last 12 months. This is extraordinary because it has not met on Kashmir for a very long time. And it is on record now, although it was a closed door, there were closed door sessions and nothing has been let out, the result of the meeting or discussions of the meeting. But then nevertheless, one thing is clear, and everybody talks about it, and that is that there were 3 closed door sessions to discuss Kashmir of the sessions of the United Nations Security Council. This is how alarming the situation has become, that even the United Nations Security Council is discussing it again. As late as 5th of August this year, the Special Rapporteur of Human Rights, they have issued a report, and you can go on internet and read that if you haven't. They are asking for urgent action, and they are calling it alarming situation in Kashmir with regards to the human rights. And one of the things all of these human rights organizations talk about is the issue that you have raised with the obligation of 35A. What is going to happen is that India is now allowing people from all over India, and the information that we are getting is it's not, or not many Indians are otherwise interested in leaving, for example, south of India and go and live in Kashmir, but it is organized Israeli type of settlements of far right people. And in India, what is happening is, our information is that it is RSS, the Rashtriya Sevak Sangh, which is a hardline right-wing organization whose members are being given the domicile in Kashmir to settle, and the fear is that they are going to cause a mayhem in Kashmir. They are very volatile. They are very I should say, very active against Muslims, in different parts of India, and brutal, and their treatment with Muslims, you may have seen on different issues on beef eating and cow slaughtering. They have lynched people. And if they are the ones who are going to get this domicile and be settled in Kashmir, not only that they are a danger for the peace in the area, but in the long run, the proportion of the population is going to change, and this could have a devastating effect if there was a plebiscite, if there was a referendum, and if India changes the population percentage, that will have a major effect on this. And I think it is very dangerous, and we are highlighting it as much as we can. And I personally, in my own little capacity, I'm raising it again. I've got a question down for the 2nd of November in Azad Lords. We have to put questions in, beforehand in order to be on the list. And I'm asking a question again from the government to what they are doing to stop this happening. And also, the United Nations Commission for Human Rights have been asking since 2018 that they want to send their own investigators to go into Jammu and Kashmir to investigate the reports of human rights violations. And India has completely refused. And we are asking the government what they are going to do to help the United Nations to get those people into Kashmir to investigate.
Because of the time restraint, I have to close and finish the show here, but we will continue some other second episode, or in other way, we will have a chat about various subjects. But once again, from my team, congratulations that you have been awarded the prestigious civil award, Istara-e-Quaid-e-Azam, and also to your family, congratulations. And thank you very much for joining Guest with Nazir and Sheffield Live TV.
Thank you.